I thought I came to a totally random location to film before the wind picked up, and there's a little boat race for the elderly gents of the local community happening over there with their small little boats, and it's peak hour for dog walking, so joy. Not to mention the old wind. Hi, my name is Pip. I'm a self-published author, and these are my two published books, The Hunted and A Night Rises, and they are the first two books in the Phoenix series. The third one will be released very soon, and I thought today I would talk a little bit about the challenges of self-publishing in Australia. I have actually made a video on this topic before, and I will link that video in the description box below, but this is just some additional thoughts I've had recently as I prepare to publish the third book in the Phoenix series. So much for a quiet, not windy day. This might be a little odd to say, but Australia is a little bit behind trend, and I noticed that every time I go overseas, which hasn't been in a long time, back in the days when we could go overseas, you used to find that, we'd go to clubs and there were songs I've never heard, and we're just a little bit behind trend, which is not necessarily a big deal with publishing, but if you're writing to trend, you are probably already a little bit behind. So this spot's a little less windy. The market is just a little bit different in Australia. Finding beta readers and ARC readers is really challenging, which means that finding a way to get early reviews is something that you should be thinking about, and it is a little bit more challenging. Also, a lot of people don't rely on Amazon as much as they do in other countries. And so again, you need to think about, are you targeting the Australian market first, or are you targeting the international larger markets? Because if you're going more for an international market, you might focus a little bit more on KU and Amazon, whereas if you're going more international, you might look at more Ingram and publishing more in a wider sense. I mean, ideally you already have a author platform that is huge and amazing with people wanting to buy your books, but that doesn't always happen. So these are some considerations if you're self-publishing in Australia. Some of the publishing companies are also a pain in the ass, and that can be for multiple reasons, but one of them is that because most of them are either European or American based, we have to fill out a bunch of tax forms so that we don't get taxed here as well as in the States if you're publishing through Amazon or Ingram. I was thinking about taking my ebooks off Ingram, which is where I'm published, and putting them through KU, but I just don't want to fill out the 50 million tax forms again. It's not just one page you have to fill out, it's about 20 pages. And the other issue with being an Australian self-publisher using some of these companies is that some of them don't like some of our banks. So for unknown reasons, probably related to international fees and percentages and all that kind of stuff, some of the publishing houses won't transfer your royalties to particular banks. Timing is one of the biggest challenges I have. So you've got to think of timing for Instagram posts for the most impact, timing for your YouTube releases, timing for whatever marketing releases you're doing, book launch strategies, things like that. Even in terms of getting involved in the writing community and having discussions. So potentially you'd be doing that on Twitter, and most of those discussions are going to be happening during our sleeping hours. So it is a little bit more complicated to get involved with that side of the writing community and to kind of engage people a little bit more and find that interaction level. The other area where I have found timing challenging is in getting things done. I don't mean in terms of getting things done personally, like writing and editing, although that is complicated to organize myself to get that done. What I mean by having difficulty with the timing of getting things done is that, for example, recently I've commissioned artwork for my books, the Phoenix series, which I plan to use as part of the marketing strategy. To do this, I have found artists who unfortunately aren't based in Australia, and they are going to be creating these artworks, and I pay for them and they provide them. The tricky part with this is that I might approach them and send them some directions and whatever to sort of ask for a quote. It's nighttime for them. They're then going to get back to me while it's nighttime for me, and on it goes. So a conversation that could probably happen normally during the course of one day or 1 hour even often takes days at a time. This is going to happen also with editors and things like that when you're finding people overseas, because often there are just more options overseas. They're not necessarily cheaper, but they're more options. I know, for example, that it is really hard to find editors based in Australia who are worth the money that they charge, and they just seem to be that little bit more expensive if they're based in Australia. You just need to think about whether you want to aim for an international market initially or an Australian market, or if you're going to go in and go for everybody all at once. It does affect the way you do things and the places you might, for example, advertise. Whether Amazon ads are particularly effective for an Australian market if they don't use Amazon as much as other countries remains to be seen. Everything is in US dollars, so your editors, your cover designers, publishing fees, BookBub ads, Amazon ads, almost always it's going to be in US dollars, which can sound reasonable or even cheap sometimes if you're lucky, but by the time you convert it into Australian dollars, it really adds up, especially when you add international charges for paying in US dollars. It adds up really quickly. On the plus side, there are some print-on-demand services like Ingram that actually have printers in Australia now, so that does make things a little bit faster and a little bit cheaper from a postage perspective. But Australian Post is not the cheapest, so it doesn't make a huge difference, but it is a little bit faster than when you're waiting for Amazon to print your book and it's coming from Kentucky before hurricanes blew me away. One of the other things I also find challenging, but is most definitely random, but I'm going to include it, is the cost of living in Australia, which is very high. The housing market is bananas. One of my friends has been looking to buy for about 2 years now, and houses that they were looking at 18 months ago were being sold for $2.5 million, and at that time they weren't really worth it, which was why my friend didn't bid on them. And now, just 18 months later, that house, the same house, is going for $3.5 to $4 million. And it's not just happening with one house. Houses that were 18 months ago in the region of $2.5 million are now going for $3.5 to $5 million. Now you might think that that has absolutely nothing to do with books or publishing, but it does. It means that there's less cash lying around in your bank account that you can spare for things like editing, publishing fees, cover design, that sort of thing, let alone advertising. Also, generally people are working longer hours now to accommodate these ridiculous mortgages, and that means you've got less time to do the actual writing. The other part of that is that it makes it really hard for authors to take time off work or just take time in general to write a really great book. Just because the cost of living is so high, you've got so much more time that you've got to spend paying off your mortgage, and you just don't have the cash lying around for any assistance services unless you're lucky and you earn a lot. But it is definitely a challenge that I think affects a lot of authors in Australia, but I mean, it is a random edition, so you might disagree with me. And everybody spends differently on books. I know plenty of authors who get their friends to edit their books. And if your friends are really good at that and they do it in a timely manner, well, more power to you. But I'm of the opinion that you get what you pay for, and that some things, like editing, aren't worth scrimping on. But do you spend your money how you like and deal with whatever challenges you face your way. These are just my latest thoughts on the challenges of self-publishing in Australia. Let me know below in the comments if you found this useful. As I said before, I've made another video on this topic, so check it out. The link is below in the description box. And thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you all soon. Give up, this is ridiculous. Let's go watch little old men race their boats. Where I've come to, you can see they've set out some little boys and they're doing some sort of miniature boat race there in a minute, so I've chosen the worst possible location to come to. got some serious lean happening coming around this corner. The wind is proving problematic. Oh, do you have to go around it? Oh, I thought he was going to fall out.